But yeah, so eventually I was living in apartments all through my undergrad, and I moved into a house 2 years ago. And when I moved into the house, I had a space to actually set up my drums and what audio gear I had. I said, I'm going to do the studio thing right. I'm really ready to start, making my own stuff. And $50,000 later, probably.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
all my money.
Yeah. And that's
Where'd that money come from?
Gigs, man.
And
saving.
And that's a
That's
cheap
a lot of
studio
money.
too. It's not even like a high. That's not even.
That's
like,
not even. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just marking it up the other day. I was like, if I'm gonna do my next expansion, it's like another $12K.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome. I want to come see your studio. What side of town you live on?
Come over, man.
Yeah, what side? You're at my house. I'll go see your house.
It is. Yeah, exactly. Dude, anytime, man, anytime. It's like. So it's in a house, right? It's in a living room that I've soundproofed and all that.
Yeah, sure.
And I charge a competitive rate compared to commercial studios because sometimes you go to studios like Dogmatic. I've looked at pictures of their site and it looks.
And they're amazing, and we love them.
Yeah, dude. I'd love to go there anytime. But you go to commercial studios and there's a vibe to them. You walk in there and you want to create.
Yeah.
There's gear everywhere.
Yeah.
That's true.
The lights are low. Everything looks cool. They got
real great
pictures
place
on the
to take
wall.
a nap.
Yeah, like we were saying. Yeah,
Or a real good,
take a nap.
or a real good place to create.
Right.
Well, whatever.
Or take a nap.
Yeah.
It's a real expensive nap. Anyways,
Right.
keep going.
But you walk into my place and you're in a living room.
Yeah, I know.
And it's not as inspiring. So, part of what you're paying for when you go to these studios is like the inspiration and the environment
Yeah,
to be
100%.
there.
That's
but when
why I
you
tell
come to
people all
my
the time.
place, you got to bring it with you. Yeah, I turn on some lamps and, I might light a candle or something. But there's a wiener dog running across the floor and,
Right.
one of my roommates might be coming home from work or something. So I have all the gear and, the ability to do this stuff, but you really got to make sure you show up and you have your stuff down and that you're in it.
Yeah,
So what do you produce most of the, do you have a lot of bands come through and record there, or do you do mostly like your own stuff right now?
Yes and no. I try and stay low key because there's a point in Atlanta where I was having people coming over like every single day, and you get a lot of yahoos that are just like, yo, can you download this beat from YouTube so we
Right.
could do this? I'm like,
A lot of that,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure. You already paid me, right? And I'm with the amount of time between recording, doing stuff for the label, and gigging, like I just don't have time for that. So I don't actually try and promote myself, but I've had plenty of people come through. Like Chelsea has done stuff over there. A bunch of guys from UNF have come over and done stuff.
And do you typically
there.
produce the artists that you work with, or are you just like acting as the engineer?
Most of the time I'm acting as the engineer, but when you're an engineer and a producer, there's always different hats that you wear, and sometimes you got to be able to make the decision to choose whether you actually want to be involved, because the moment when you're just an engineer, there's a threshold you cross where you start to offer advice.
Yeah.
Where you start to cross over into the producer territory.
Right.
And you got to look at it from a professional standpoint. Well, I'm also offering them this advice that somebody would be getting paid separately for.
Right.
So how much advice do I offer them? Most of the time I'm pretty nice with it, especially with people that I see are great musicians and that we have a rapport with, or they're actually really into it and really trying to do that. It's not fair to be like, you failed.
Maybe you work some points out in the back end or something,
Yeah, but some people come in there with an attitude and like, well, that's not the way I want to do it. I'm like, I'll do it, but I'm just trying to follow your direction, and you showed up 3 hours late.
Yes.
And you brought like your 3 sisters with you, and it's like, I don't have time to play around,
Yeah.
I can't not sit still and not say something. Like there's no way that I could just be like, okay, this is the way you want to do it, and then just be like just a robot
Yeah,
about
sometimes
it.
you just gotta let them go. you know?
I'm gonna say what you're doing is bad.
Yeah.
Like always.
You get good at reading people.
Yeah, no.
You get good at reading people and
Yeah.
seeing like, oh, they're gonna hate what they just did. And then a step further is you realize the people that are actually have the intuition to be able to say, pick themselves apart, and not just be like, oh, that was hype, and it was like straight dog doo-doo.
Yeah.
And or like, you let them go, and you know it's gonna fail, but you know that they're gonna hear it and be like, I can do better. And that's when you just kind of keep your mouth shut because you don't want to kick a dead
Seems like you
horse.
would make more money as an engineer just not saying anything.
And sometimes that's the case. But that's what I'm saying. It's like you choose how much you want to be involved depending on how serious a person is how much talent they have or whether they give a shit or whatever.
So this is something I kind of want to go into. What does a producer do? Like, so if you're producing an artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does your job entail as a producer?
It depends. And to draw a very black and white line, in the hip hop world, a producer is typically the person who shows up with the beats.
The producer shows up at the beats, is what you said?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So the rapper stereotypically does not actually have their own music, or they're actually in the studio collaborating, but the producer is the guy that has all the keyboard skills, the drum machine type stuff. The guy that's actually creating the musical stuff from the instrument.
All right.
Gotcha.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but then on the more not hip hop side, the producer could be anywhere from. I like to think of it a few different ways. There are a few different types of producers. There's the producer engineer, the guy that is the engineer but also the producer, which is what I kind of think of myself as. The guy that gets creative with
Two hats
put the
sort of
microphone
situation. Yeah.
and like, oh, we could get this sound if we use these type of things. So like, what if you try this different drum, stuff
Right.
like that? Or you have the musician producer, which I'm also kind of like, where they actually sit with you and actually help you write the song and craft like a vision for the album, stuff like that. And then there's more of like the label producer, which is something I'm venturing more into, which is generally the person that's kind of like collecting everybody together. Sometimes you play like band matchmaker, like, oh, I know this guy that plays keys and would be like perfect for this, or like, we got this guy on the label that I think you could do a collaboration with, or let me send this to this guy and get a second opinion, or like, let me go get somebody to get you coffee.
Right.
It could be anywhere from administrative to like connections. Not to say that you're pigeonholed into any one, because I feel like I'm definitely more musician, producer, engineer, producer, and lately I've been more into label producer. But there's different types that you can encounter, and
Yes.
I think a lot of bands go wrong in sometimes not getting a producer.
Yeah.
And making sure that you get the right producer,
Yeah, it's
because
very
sometimes they could really sink your ship.
No, I know.
Yeah.
It's very strange, too. You're just like, all right, we're going to get this producer. It's like, we don't even know this guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's just going to be like, he's going to
Or-
be in charge of our album or our music or anything.